Hello and welcome to the Auto Guide Show. This week, Kyle sees probably the most important debut of the year. I drive a bunch of things. Kyle drives a big EV. And speaking of EVs, guess what? Some manufacturers are changing their mind. But first, a word from our sponsor. Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay, because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything: brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need, and it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you order the right thing. All the parts you need, at the prices you'll love, guaranteed fit every time. eBay, things people love. So kicking off the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors. Kyle, you were in Texas for an entire week at Toyota's head office, mainly because of the new RAV4, the number one selling non-pickup in North America.
Yeah, just, a small launch, not a big deal or anything. Yeah, it is quite a lot different, but also not. There's a lot of ground to cover here, and I know that we are going to have a long talk with our special guest, so I'm going to try to keep it fairly brief. But it is the same size as before. That was something that I actually found a little surprising. If you really want to get technical, this is a very, very, very thorough facelift because all the measurements are the same. Lengths are slightly changed because of protruding bumpers or things like that, or higher ride height because of all-terrain tires. But the biggest news is that the RAV4 is doing what the Camry did. It is all hybrid all the time.
It's a good hybrid system. So
yeah, it's a good hybrid system. The only thing is there is no more mechanical all-wheel drive, which might bother a few folks who wanted something RAV4 size but still wanted that. That might be a small issue, I guess, because they don't really have anything else to send you towards. Like a 4Runner is a lot more money. A Highlander isn't really the same idea. So that is, I mean, we'll see how the market responds in a year. But this is the 5th gen hybrid system, so you have more power. You now have a front drive hybrid because Toyota is going to keep selling front drive RAV4s. So that's a first for this. It has a little bit more power. The plug-in hybrid also has a little bit more power. It has 320, but then the range has also gone up, so you can do 50 miles or 80 kilometers of all-electric range. It is on the new GR Sport model, which is I guess you would say, the flagship of the new range. There's going to be 6 trims at launch. The Woodland is back. It will also... It is.
I was going to say, is it not dead because it doesn't have an actual all-wheel drive system anymore?
No, so the thing was, the Woodland never technically did. The Woodland was always hybrid. The Trail or the Adventure, depending on Canada or the US, that is dead. But this is here, and now it has all-terrain tires, so it borrows a little bit more from the old Trail or Adventure, but it will be available with either the hybrid or the plug-in hybrid, although Canada is skipping the plug-in hybrid.
The GR Sport, Toyota, really? You had to borrow that from the Germans, where it's not a GR, it's a GR Sport, like an M Sport or the AMG, whatever. Like,
that's your question or a comment?
No, that's just a sad. I'm just disappointed.
All right.
I'm not upset, just disappointed. And again, it's going to sell them more.
You're such a parent.
And I don't know. There's something about the roofline on the side, but the way it comes up, it has this like little Jeep SUV look to me. And I don't mean like a Jeep. I mean like an actual Jeep. Like the Compass or the Renegade.
So the hard points, right? Like, because I was saying earlier, it's a facelift. So that little tiny like bit of black plastic that's at the base of the A-pillar on the current model, it's still on this. But the roofline has changed. The back end is more upright, and it's a larger piece of more upright glass for the lift gate. So there's probably slightly more cargo room, and it might be better to see out of now. So that is different, but it's very rogue-like from the back with the new taillight design. Before I forget, because we stopped and restarted for a sec, the whole thing about the weights for the hybrids currently, because hybrid only makes up half of RAV4 sales now. So how is Toyota going to get over that? Well, it has a new battery plant in North Carolina so it has localized a lot of drivetrain production. And before anyone thinks anything, this was planned years ago. It's opening and coming on speed this year for a RAV4, which makes this 100% hybrid lineup possible. So Toyota is going to be pumping out batteries there. There's going to be the plant in Kentucky building RAV4s, obviously the plant here in Ontario. So yeah, I'm needless to say, a little excited to drive it.
I think I'll drive like a RAV4.
Yeah,
So,
probably.
moving on to things you've driven, you got to drive the Hyundai Ioniq 9. I had a chance to drive this week too. I just didn't get around to it, but I've heard good things.
It is very impressive. Mike, I feel a little weird because so far the two vehicles, actually, sorry, pecan. The three vehicles that I've driven this year that have impressed me the most are all 3-row EVs. So, crap, I keep complaining about how vehicles are getting too big, but I'm part of the problem.
Yeah, the niche that you're into.
Yeah, the Lucid Gravity, the ID Buzz, and this. So this is Hyundai's new flagship, and it is priced like a flagship. It is the loaded model is a little over 70,000 in the US, and in Canada with destination, it is $83,000. That is a lot of money. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. And when you hear brands talk about how they acknowledge that there is an affordability issue, this doesn't help. That being said, this is the most concerted effort that Hyundai has made to go after the premium segment since Genesis was still a part of the brand. I mean, how much was a Genesis sedan back in the day, right? Like it was priced discounted versus the Germans or something, but pretty expensive for a Hyundai. That's what this feels like. I drove this, and in some ways, it rides as well, if not better, than a Lucid Gravity. It's not as sporty, obviously. It's not as quick, but it is so smooth and comfortable. We were on Vancouver Island. The roads are pretty good there, but there were definitely some roads that looked pretty bad, right? And my co-driver and I would preemptively just kind of wince at big bumps, and the Ioniq 9 just sailed over them. It is very good on range. We were in a hilly area, and we got still right on target for what the estimate is. Every model has at least 500 kilometers of range, so that's pretty good. It has the NACS port, and it does come with an adapter as standard, which I think is an important thing to mention. And the interior is just it's like the Ioniq 5, right? It's very natural feeling. It's spacious and airy. I really think this is impressive, and I think it proves that for EVs, there's going to be a hard thing for premium brands where they have to find a way to distinguish themselves from mainstreams because the drive experience of an EV is so refined and quiet. So yeah, I came away super impressed with this.
Yeah, like you're right. All EVs pretty much drive and ride the same because it's just the electric experience. So some materials and whatnot. So as I said, I had a chance to drive it, but I couldn't. But I had a discussion, and someone brought up a good point. They said if you're not into the nostalgia, looks and feel, and the coolness of the Buzz, they said like this should make Volkswagen executives feel a little concerned because it does everything else better for about the same price. And then we also had a discussion. The only real disadvantage, I mean, you talked about 500k range, which is pretty good, but these large EVs is because they're so big and they can only hold so much battery. None of them are range masters. I mean, you put the actual 7-8 people in there plus your luggage, and your range is not. You're not going on a long road trip, let's say, and it's got to be somewhere that has somewhere that can charge you to get you back. Which is this is the class that
major highway. Yeah, like once you leave the highways, but yeah, like any major highway route, you're okay. As soon as you get off of it, then
like these are the family long haul vehicles. So I don't know what the solution is, but
yeah,
I'm sure someone will figure it out. Like 99% of the time you own the car, you're fine. It's that one trip, and you could always just rent something. But
that's always. I mean, that's the thing we say about trucks, right? It's nobody, or not nobody, but very few people use a truck for truck things most of the time, and that's sort of the case with this. Like, yeah, this is an excellent road trip vehicle, and if you're doing long distances, it's going to require a fair amount of planning and stopping. Most of the time, I bet when I see one of these in a year, it's going to be one person driving by themselves on the highway.
Probably. Well, I know, but people do buy vehicles. Like, I got to do 3 trips a year, so I'm going to buy something that can do that.
Yeah,
but
which is
but not many people drive that much at once. So sticking with electric cars, I was at the Malma Rally, which is the Midwest Automotive Media Association, and they rolled out the 4-door Charger Daytona, and we were actually the first people to ever drive it outside of Dodge. They said, here it is. I will keep this quick because we're getting along on time. My 3 main impressions are it looks so much better with 4 doors. Like this body style was like it's the proportions and everything. Like, look at this picture. Like that's what it's supposed to look like. The coupe just
Fair.
it was too big for the coupe, and it wasn't wasn't super sleek like say an LC500 that can play with the length. So the rear seat is no different, and they said that too at the launch. The roof line's the exact same. It's just the number of doors. So limited headroom. I do fit, but I'm looking at a swoopy pillar beside me, but all the legroom in the world.
Okay.
It drives the exact same as I remember it. Some people really don't like it, but I think they're looking at it as a muscle car and an EV too much, and it's just a car, a big car. It's smooth. It handles pretty well. It's comfortable. Like it's a really good car. And if the EV is what you're hung up on, well, the Hurricane's coming probably by the end of this year. So
yeah.
And that's going to drastically reduce the price too. So then I'm curious what the packaging will be. But I there's a lot to this car. So I took it for a short drive, and yeah, same impressions. And I love the interior. It's got such a cool interior.
Yeah.
And speaking of the rally, I drove other things. So I tried to stick to things that were new to us or
SUVs.
Unusual. So I drove the Rolls-Royce Cullinan just because I had to. And you're talking about the Ioniq 9 absorbing bumps. I'm sure it's nowhere near what this thing does. It is ridiculous what the... Like, I hit train tracks that one vehicle I won't name would literally bounce 6 more times after. Like, we were all commenting on how terrible it is in the design, but most would give you 1 or 2 bounces. I didn't even feel it in this thing. The seats have shocks. There's shocks on the chassis. Like, I know like people have the cliche if it's a rolling living room, but it is. Like, it's so nice inside. The V12 has more power than you ever need, and unless you absolutely ring it out, you don't even hear it. It's it's one of those, is it worth the premium over say like an X7 in those vehicles? That's up to the buyer. It is definitely better than those cars, but is it worth like almost twice the money? I don't know. I mean, I'm not in a tax bracket, so I can't say. But how you're saying like the EV is differentiating, like some people would say, well, how is a Rolls Royce any better than a fully luxury SUV? Go drive in one. You'll see the difference. I mean, there's a reason it costs so much besides the RR on the front. But and then quickly, I drove the Grenadier Quartermaster. One of your favorites from last year is now a pickup truck.
Sweet.
So it's literally, it's like the Renegade. It's literally
or the
Grenadier SUV for no, like the Jeep Renegade.
Oh,
it's literally,
you mean
it's literally a Grenadier? Oh, sorry, yeah, Gladiator. You're right. Yeah. So from the rear doors forward, it's the same car, and then it's got a little bed off the back. But like the Gladiator, it doesn't like to turn. In the off-road course, it had to do so many 3-point turns. I mean, it handles everything hilariously. I mean, it bounces you around as we experienced last year, but it does not stop. But yeah. And then my biggest surprise on that off-road course was I took BMW X5. When they said a BMW was on the off-road course, we're all like, what? And I didn't even... This is my fault. I didn't research enough about the new X5. But yeah, the silver edition or a silver anniversary, it has an X off-road package. And it gets actual all-terrain tires, off-road modes, 5-level air suspension. So I jacked that thing up, put it in the sand because it was a monsoon of mud. And you should go watch my video. It was one of the best vehicles out there. And we're going against some real off-roaders. Like, it's one of those, when BMW puts their mind to something, they will do it. And I couldn't believe how good it was. It didn't get stuck. Some obstacles, like the Grenadier was breaking my back, or the Forester maybe struggled a bit. This thing just kind of went over like nothing. Like it was on par with the Land Cruiser, which I also have here. And its ground clearance actually made it better than Land Cruiser in some spots, and so did its more aggressive tires. So yeah. Good job, BMW. And I just got to market it to people because clearly I didn't know about it.
Yeah. So sweet.
All right. So our final story, it's something we've covered many times, and the poor EVs are getting beaten every day, it seems. You brought it up, Kyle, earlier, that is like automakers, you think, with all their research and whatnot, know the market. And I know the government's really pushing, like, we'll give you rebates and mandates and all this.
They just killed major things yesterday.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's because it didn't take off, and I, I still think people don't. I don't know. Not everyone understands how much people shop by dollars. Like this could be the best car in the world, but if it's even $1,000 more than that car, people are going to go there. Like so, the EV is such a tough sell, and even with the rebates, it still wasn't on par. And if the rebates were also, some people are like, oh, I don't want to have to go through all that hassle. It's like not hassle, you just apply for it and you get it. But now that the rebates are dying, the OEMs are re-looking, but it's also the mandates are lifting. The California ban, for instance, that's totally automaker lobbying into Senate to try to get it taken down because they weren't prepared to invest how much they need to and take losses basically on their cars. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is so good. It's just the price, and I get it. Like you're not going to sell a car and not make money. I mean, the auto business is a business, so someone needs to make a breakthrough that we can get these EVs
I
at the same
mean,
price.
dealers are never going to like EVs because they lose out on a whole lot of fixing. Well, I mean, not
Not
not with all
really.
the
The only
recalls, but
Yeah,
like,
no,
uh,
dealers actually like EVs because I've talked to them because the little things that people don't take care of, like oil changes, that then they have to fight with over warranty. Like you kind of wash your hands of that. You
yeah,
still
but I
need
mean,
tires. You need more tires. You need more brakes. You
but
still need
there's
to do
so
all that
many
stuff.
stories out there about dealerships like not seeming interested in selling EVs, right? Or not
It's,
doing proper
yeah,
education. I
it's
mean,
price based.
this thing yesterday with killing the incentives and then introducing a new tax on hybrids and EVs. It's not about like choice. It's about punitive at this point. Like the current government wants to punish EVs, and I think that's a problem because look, I agree that like there's a price issue, but I think the problem right now is that for the last however many years, these companies have spent billions of dollars investing and in like long term things, right? Not just new platforms, but new battery plants, uh, and now they're just left trying to scramble and figure out what good that is. And if you pause all these projects, you're never going to come back from it. And there are other markets in the world that are pushing forward on this tech, and North America is just going to end up further behind. And that's a scary idea. I mean, we can rely on bringing back old V8s for how long?
I'm not talking about North America with these rules.
Yeah, but
It was Porsche and Honda were the two manufacturers, and it's their global strategy. They've dialed way back because I know North America's going completely reverse, but even places that were like, this is going to be the EV mecca and everyone's going to buy them like Europe, it's not taking off as they thought. And again, it's all pricing. Solid state batteries is like this unicorn that's supposed to solve things, and maybe it will, but yeah, I honestly don't think it's the range or the drive experience. Like most consumers don't even care how the car drives, as long as it drives. And I could probably prefer it because, like we said earlier, it's so refined. It's
it's better.
just,
But
yeah, it's
yeah,
just if you're going to buy, you know, RAV4 SUV and equivalent BZ4X, and you look at the prices, you're like, I think I'll
but
go get my RAV4.
yeah, EV versus gas is still a price issue, but I don't think people are as focused on price as we try to
No,
say
they
as
are.
it gets. Well,
Trust
no,
me.
because if the Rev then the Rev4 wouldn't be the best selling SUV because it's not the cheapest by far.
No,
Like
but
I
it's
think like
size first
EV
class.
versus gas is a problem.
Yeah.
But like I mean Toyota, like the weird thing is Toyota's EV, it's Toyota, and it's not the most expensive. It's a pretty good value, and they have incredible lease deals. But it's never really sold that well because it's not competitive with other EVs. Like it's a challenge, and I don't think any of the stuff that's happening in the on the government side is helping. But yeah, like look on a global end, it makes sense for Honda or Porsche to walk back their EV plans because North America is still their biggest market or one of their biggest markets. So if North America has cratered, then yeah, you can't go forward on your EV plan if one of your major markets is just not working. I get it, but I hope both of them are still working on their EVs. The new Honda Zeros look cool.
Yeah. Well, they both said they're going to get into hybrids more, and I still think that'll be
Good.
the solution for now until someone can get the price down. To your
Yeah,
point about the pricing of the RAV4, you're right. It's not the least expensive, but I'm talking people want a category. They need a segment. Like I need a 3-row. And if you're going to look at a Highlander versus an Ioniq 9, it's like, well, there's there's a bit of a price
yeah,
discrepancy.
yeah,
I mean, I know
totally.
people who I've recommended cars and they like go driving like this is amazing. Oh, it's like $50 more a month. No, and it's like Is
Yeah,
that
no,
really like, you're talking like a couple $100 a year to not be as happy because you just want to save some money? And then, yeah, but um, the Honda hybrid system, I'm curious about because it's so different right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
And I'm
Having to
wondering if
build it for
they
the bigger cars is tough.
exactly like I'm wondering how I'd love to see a hybrid pilot, but does it
Well,
translate?
I mean, on that end, right? Like the Palisade, the new one is a hybrid, and we've said for a long time that that was what the Palisade was missing. So,
Hmm.
I mean, on that sense, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm happy to hear that more hybrids are happening. I mean, look at the RAV4. Um, Hybrids make sense. I'm hoping that still EVs end up getting closer and closer to price parity because that is a major hurdle. And I on this trip that I was just on, we were talking about the other thing too is I think EVs were kind of marketed wrong for a long time.
Oh yeah.
We kept focusing on this like we're saving the environment thing, and I don't think that's the right thing because look, like people don't buy their vehicles based on that. If you sell it on, look how smooth and refined it is. Like if you tell people you're getting a better experience, that's a more interesting selling point than you're saving the environment. It's such a broad idea. So that was our little
Yeah.
discussion.
No, you're totally right. I think they were pushed too hard by certain interest groups with the technology not there, and the kind of like you said, they made the OEMs invest all this money, and now they're having trouble recovering it. And you're right, they're marketed wrong. Like who cares? And then people on the other side will say, "Well, they're not as green." It's like I don't care if they're green. It's just a smooth driving car. Like that's what it's meant to be. But um, back to hybrids. So Subaru, I drove the hybrid Forester this week, and we'll talk
Okay.
about that next week. It gets 581 miles of range, which is because the Forester always had a big tank. But yeah, I'll save all the details on that. But it was
Okay.
getting pretty good mileage, and like the Rav4, I think everything is going to go hybrid because that technology
It's
is
proven.
it's pretty much bulletproof at this point.
Yeah.
And in fairness, it took about 20 years to get this good for everybody. I mean, Toyota's been a master forever, but look at some of Subaru, some of the other manufacturers' attempts early on didn't go so well. So
Jeep's plug-in.
EVs, yeah, so like EVs have been more or less coming for 10 years. So maybe another 5, 10 years we'll get there as well. But let's just
Oh,
hope it's not dead by then.
and to your point of like 5, 10 years, like think back to what EVs were like 10 years ago. It's like
Oh
we
yeah.
have made such a huge leap now. Yeah, yeah. It's a complicated situation, and we've talked about it a lot.
Yeah. It's just I mean, there's other issues for manufacturers have to worry about than just the EV cost. But I think that's part of it too. Is they're just trying to what makes us money right now, and let's just stick with that for a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like there's like a lot of uncertainty about pricing. That's weird. I wonder why. Anyway,
Which is too bad because we drove the Porsche Macans. We haven't had the video go live yet. Oh no, we did. And they're both good vehicles, but you preferred it over the gas, and I preferred the gas. But that I think was very trim dependent.
yeah.
Um, but the pricing, like we both said, it was yours that the pricing's huge, and mine wasn't too far off. I think, or was it the other way around?
Yeah, the lower trim isn't too far away from an equivalent gas model. But then also the catch for us was that in Canada it's a lot more expensive, which is weird
Mm.
because usually Porsches are actually comparatively a better deal in Canada than the US, but the EVs they aren't. And to that, like the Ioniq 9, Canada's are sourced from Korea and are a better price in dollar figure. Well, they're basically equivalent dollar figure to the US, which is built in the US. So it's a comparative
Interesting.
excellent deal, the Ioniq 9 here, but you're still looking at like an entry point that is the same as a loaded Palisade, which is tough.
Yeah, I mean, at least it's premium. Like that's the other thing too. I think people tried to make too many of these funky and recycled materials and this and that. And it's like you should have raised the price even a little bit more and loaded it with features and sell it as premium. And a lot are doing that now. Like I just drove the Mach-E,
Yeah.
and that is a lot of money, but it gives you a very premium driving experience. And
And honestly, my thinking with this is like, look, long distance road trips, like you said, aside, the Ioniq 9 for me, I don't know how anyone would drive that in an Acura MDX as an example and be like, oh, I want the Acura. Like this is so much better in day-to-day living, so much more spacious. The only catch is that if you're doing long distances, you're going to have to stop and charge.
Or if you live somewhere without a charger. That's
Yeah,
the other thing
yeah,
too. Like EVs, that's another problem for EVs is they're such a suburban domain, which fine by me. I'm gonna have a charger in my house, but a lot of cities are so reluctant. Like my parents, won't get into it, but their condo had a war over just trying to put 2 chargers in for like 800 people, and they lost. So
yeah,
yeah. Anyway, we will be taking a break now, and
yeah.
I'll be back with Greg to talk products, and then I'll be on with Kyle to talk to one of the coolest car collectors I personally know. Well, actually, know what? I'm going to rephrase that. Probably the coolest car collector I
Yeah.
personally know.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
only know 2 that have really cool collections, huge collections, and this is one of them. And then I'll be back with Colum Talk F1, and Kyle and I'll be here to wrap it up. Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you'll find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay, things people love. Okay, let's welcome back Greg now. We are talking not cleaning products this time, but other seasonable items that maybe aren't exactly for the car, but will be transported in the car.
So this is the unofficial start of summer. We are recording this on Friday, which is like right to the kickoff of Memorial Day weekend. I think it's a great time to, hey, it's summer. And what do you do in summer? You picnic. You like to grill. You like to grill other places. I love to grill literally anywhere. So I thought, hey, this list of portable grills, which we nominally call them tailgating, but to me, from now until basically it starts to snow, and even then, you like to be grilling. So we might as well talk about the almost like the grills on wheels segment here. So there's a few here I like. I actually curious what kind you like, but the 2 I'll highlight right off the top. I like the Weber Jumbo Charcoal Grill. This is basically the Weber grill that we've probably all come to know and love. It's literally, this is stationary grill like this is what I learned to grill on, basically, from my dad. So it's the kind of thing where, like, to grill is to probably use a Weber. And we are not sponsored by them in any way, but this is just like very much, straightforward grill. Weber grill is just a little bit smaller, very easy to transport. So if you're going to go charcoal, you're going to go mobile. I like this one for your summer picnics. Maybe there's like a park you want to go to, or like something you're thinking of doing, like a day trip, taking the kayaks, that sort of thing. Hey, you got to cook lunch or maybe even an early dinner. This is a great way to do it. So yeah. I like this one a lot.
Not sponsored by Weber, but if they would like to sponsor Greg, he's open to suggestions.
That is true. The
Greg's
Weber,
barbecue reviews.
Hey, we got a lot of things going on here at Vertical Scope. We got watch sites, we got paddling sites. It's a big place. There's plenty of things you can get on board with. And then if you want to go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'll show my bias too. So first off, people need to check out the post for the editor's pick number 1. It's ridiculous. I won't get into all that now, but it cooks everything. It's like a portable like barbecue / pizza oven. But I recently bought a Coleman barbecue myself. I was looking at many of the big brands and just the size and price, and I'm super happy with it. So I will go with the Coleman Road Trip portable stand-up because I'm also a propane guy. I have anything against charcoal. I know people argue it tastes better. It's just I don't have the time or the patience for charcoal. I just want instant flame. So that's my pick. And that one too, it stands up like a regular barbecue without needing to be on a table or something, like a picnic table. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. And then it just folds up and off you go.
Yeah, I also like that. That's what I was going to literally say next is we're sort of playing the hits here. It's, this is the journey. Don't stop believing of gear recommendations. We're not going with too many deep cuts. Weber and Coleman, shocking. But that, number 10 on our list there, that's a good one. I like the one that stands up. We've used a version of this for tailgating. You just bring the bottle of propane and away you go. It heats all sorts of things. I also tend to like the tabletop one too. It's not on the list, but that's even more portable. You can throw that in the back of anything. You don't need like a truck or a crossover. Like that'll go in the back of your Honda Civic real easy, right on the floor. So I like that. Coleman's, I think, are bulletproof. They're reliable. I have a Coleman tent, sort of like they're ubiquitous with outdoors. So I like both of those. I haven't tested every single thing on this list, but I've grilled a lot, and many of them are useful. I think it just comes down to, what do you want to bring? Do you want to bring that propane cylinder? Do you want to bring charcoal? How much time do you have? What kind of, meal do you want to make? I love charcoal. I'm probably slightly biased to that. But I have two grills. I have more than two grills. I have a portable Weber. I have a Weber in my garage, which I use occasionally. But to be perfectly honest, I use the Broil Master. That's an in-ground gas grill hooked up to the gas line that came with my house. So I really enjoy that too. It is the opposite of portable though. So a little off topic.
Yeah, I grew up with the gas grills hooked right up to the house. So we don't have that here. But yeah, like with the Coleman, I have a Coleman's camping stove, and I can't complain about that. And it'd be the same system. So yeah, going with the brand names is usually a good thing. But some of the other makes on the list offer interesting alternatives like the hitch mount and whatnot. But moving on to something else that we will talk about quickly before I let you go, our listing of the week. Ooh, what a surprise on this one.
Shocking. So fans of the show may know that I have a 2006 Dodge Charger manufactured in Brampton, I think, Ontario, in November of 2005. So the listing this week, play the hits, 2010 Dodge Charger. This is available. I think I don't know if it's still available, but this was a listing that we put up this week. This is the very tail end of that first sort of generation of the reboard Charger back at the turn of the century. Again, I'm biased, but I think this is one of the better versions because you get the very clean lines. Like, this looks exactly like a Charger straight out of central casting, as you would expect. I interviewed Ralph Gilles once, the head of design for, now Stellantis, and he was involved in this car in the 300. And he always said that this is what he thought the Charger would naturally evolve into if it hadn't gone away, between that iconic muscle car era, the brief 80s interlude, and then nothing until 05. But this 2010 listing is out there. I think it's the cleanest sheet metal, something you see from that. I mean, this is 10, but it's essentially an 05 as far as the design. You don't get all the creases and lights and things that you later saw with as the Charger got a little more complex. And I think it's a very classic look. This one has about 130,000 miles. It was a former Pursuit, so it's a former police car, which I think is kind of interesting. You get the 5.7 liter Hemi V8. And if you kind of look at this shot, this is actually a pretty good angle here. You can see the true, almost like coupe-like styling. And with this car, it's not a cliche because the C-pillar runs right into the trunk, creating that kind of angled roof line. These cars are huge. When I'm not in press cars, I use this as my occasional daily. So maybe 1 or 2 weeks a month, it gets some miles. Obviously, if you can find a car like this out there and you're willing to take some miles, they're good war horses. I think the survivors are more interesting than, frankly, some of the ones that are heavily modded. This one's a little somewhere in between. But with the reveal or sort of, amplification of the four-door Charger sedan this week, which you've probably seen on our site, I thought it'd be great to throw back to the original four-door Charger sedan. So that's it.
All right. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Like I said, it's a police car. Although they say it's a Pursuit, it doesn't have the Pursuit interior. So I'm very curious if it's just like a detective car, but it's like rental spec on the outside, and inside even the steering wheel has 0 controls. Like, it's a very base, but then with the V8. So it's kind of cool. You get the best of both, sleek, subtle sleeper with a big V8. But anyway, we will let you go, and we will talk to you next week. More seasonable products and another car of the week, I hope. So until then, see you later, Greg.
See you later, Mike.
And picture this. You're in the garage, your favorite room in the house, and you're tuning up your engine with parts you found on eBay. Every piece is just locking perfectly into place. You step back to admire your work, hands covered in grease, and because you're committed to driving that thing further than the odometer can handle, you start to think to yourself, you know what, I could probably also use some new brakes, some shocks and struts, and this baby deserves a new air filter. So you head right back to eBay. You can find any part you need there. It's unreal. From wipers and headlights to cold air intakes, exhaust systems, and even that turbo you've had on your mind, eBay is the stock garage of your dreams. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. Because eBay knows DIY fixes can be major, and mods are always intense, so you need to know that these parts guaranteed to fit every time before you dive in wrench first. And in the off chance you order a part and it doesn't fit, send it back, simple as that. You know what you love more than the car itself is driving it. You're serious when it comes to engine maintenance, and you're locked in when you're headed into a build. And that's exactly why you start with eBay, minor fix or complete overhaul. You want to get your ride back on the road, and you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. So eBay created My Garage, where all you have to do is add your ride's info and get the exact parts that fit. When you see the green check, you're a click away from that part clicking perfectly into place. So now that you know all that, imagine standing at that open garage door looking at your car you love more than anything, knowing that anything is possible. Whether it's keeping it on the road forever or turning it into something that's never been on the road before. Because with eBay, your garage just got a whole lot bigger. Get all the parts you need at prices you love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Okay, welcome back. We have a special guest. We always have a special guest, but this week we have someone that does a whole lot of cool things with cars. So we'll just let him introduce himself. If you could tell our audio listeners who you are.
Sure. My name is Myron Vernis. I live in Akron, Ohio. I do a whole lot of things with cars. Never been smart enough to do it for profit, but still have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think that's more important. I always feel if you're having fun with cars, it's more important than trying to make money off them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so you mentioned where you're from, and you have one of the craziest car collections because I love oddball cars. I mean, I got my SVX picture up there, and I just like one-off things. So you've amassed quite the collection. But let's go back. So were you born into a car family, or is it something you developed on your own?
Yeah, quite the opposite. I was born in Akron to Greek immigrants who proceeded to move back to Greece when I was 3 months old. And especially then back in the 50s, Greece was not, even today, Greece is not a very car-friendly country. And back then, it was borderline third world. So never really had much exposure to cars when I was a kid. Lived there till I was 5 years old. My mom said that from the time I was 3 years old, I'd sit on the balcony of our apartment and just sit there and watch the cars go by. It was easy to babysit, at that. But we moved back here when I was 5, and Akron at the time was the rubber capital of the world. Right? All the big tire companies were based here, so there was huge car culture here. As a kid growing up, I was exposed to a lot of things. My dad hated cars. Thought they were the worst of the necessary evils out there. My mother never got a license, never had a desire. So it was no, I didn't come from a car family at all.
That's a similar story to me, and neither did I. So let's fast forward a bit. So when did you get your first car, and what was it?
Yeah, so the first car I bought, it was a 1963 Porsche 356B coupe. And actually, June 12th of this year, I celebrate my 50th anniversary with that car. I've been married for 42 years, but I've had this car for 50 years. Haven't driven it in about over 20 years. My wife was driving it. The master cylinder went out about 20 years ago. Bought a new master cylinder, left it in the passenger seat, and finally took it to the shop about a month ago for it to get back on the road. So that was the first car I ever bought. And kind of fun story there. It kind of emphasized how much my dad wasn't into cars. I was a broke college student. This car was $1,500 because it had a fresh paint job and a rebuilt engine. I had $900 to my name. Rode my bike home, asked my dad for $600. He wouldn't do it. So I rode my bike back to the car, made a deal to finance it over the next couple months with the guy, and ended up buying it. And ironically, and kind of sadly, my dad in that interim was diagnosed with lung cancer, passed away, never even did get to see the car. But his last bit of counsel, he gave me 2 bits of counsel on his deathbed. I should have listened to everything my dad told me, but as an 18, 19-year-old, you're a lot smarter than your parents. You're not going to do that. But his 2 last bits of counsel to me were, he was a jeweler by trade. was, and electric watches were just coming on board. He said, never wear a watch you can't want, and never buy a car you can't pay cash for. So those are the two bits of advice that I've clung to.
Well, you did eventually pay cash for it. It just took a little while. But yeah, that's quite the
Yeah.
first car. I mean, I would be holding on to that too. My first car wasn't that fancy and it ended up getting written off. But that's pretty cool because I want to own my first car again just out of nostalgia. It's a terrible car, but I think a lot of people just want them.
Yeah,
Is it out there?
I don't think so. It was an Alero and it was a rare coupe manual
Oh yeah.
low model, but because it got hit by a mail truck in the US, I think they just junked it. Like it was written off to me. It could have been fixed, but I'm sure it's just sat in a junkyard ever since.
Yeah, well, a stick shift and literal coupe, that tends to.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, sorry, Kyle, I'll just ask one more question, but that kind of will transition us to you have quite the collection. You don't have to tell us how many cars you have because maybe the family doesn't even know. But
Heck, I don't even know, to be honest. I mean, it's not that it's a huge number compared to like some major collectors out there, but yeah, my daughter, our youngest daughter is a lawyer. I think she has a better handle on it than any.
Yeah, well, cars are always coming and going, it seems, for you, so I can see how you get lost. But how you mentioned major collectors, a lot of people collect the usual suspects. You do not. You have some cars that I love watching or reading your posts you put on about different cars because I'm like, sometimes I'm like, oh, you have one of those, and other times I'm like, oh, what's that? And I learn about it.
Yeah. You learn early on, that you're not going to be like a super wealthy person, but you still want to have fun. And I found that you can buy interesting cars and not spend a whole lot of money and have fun. That's really the 356 at the time when I bought it was not a cool car. You could buy plenty of driving 356s for hundreds of dollars.
hmm
You were looked down upon at the Porsche Club if you showed up with a 356. Even the 914 guys were looking down.
Oh, geez.
So it's not a matter. But it was just as much fun, and I met super nice people. The 356 group. It was kind of a support group because the company wasn't supporting the cars, and you you kind of find out that it's more about the culture and the cars, and the people that like unique cars are always there and have a good time. Don't take themselves too seriously.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, with the kind of cars you have to have the passion and knowledge. So I can see the people who are into those cars aren't going to take themselves too seriously because they are these obscure oddballs. Not that that Porsche was all that obscure, but some of the cars you've owned over the years are pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting to some people. Some people think that they're just crazy, but yeah, again, they're fun.
Yeah, I think I mean we were just talking before we started the recording about cars and coffee, and I think when it's ones that are more focused on older vehicles or more oddball vehicles, right? You get more of a passionate crowd, and I hate to throw anybody under the bus, but you don't get like the people who just want to do burnouts in front of folks and cameras, right? And so you always find someone who is passionate about any vehicle, and then you learn something. You come away feeling like you've grown.
Yeah. The Cars and Coffee we do on Friday mornings. We do it in the national park. We do it Friday mornings between 7 and 10 a.m. So those are both self-limiting factors there. So you really have to have passion to be there, and it's kind of come and go. And like today, I drove a Harrier Zagato. Was the early like RX 300, which we got here in North America. It's RX 300, but the first 250 had Zagato body kits on. So I drove that. Most people looking at it going down the road think, just an old, Lexus, SUV or crossover. Um, but people kind of figure that stuff out. Had a guy showed up today for the first time in a '67 Mini panel van, which was like super super, and Camaros, there, Porsches. It's just and everybody just had a good time despite being freezing cold.
Yeah.
So you brought up the Zagato. What would you say is sort of the cars you're most into? Is it some of the Japanese oddballs, European oddballs, American one-offs?
You know, Figured it out the other day. We have cars from like 9 different countries, so I can't say that I'm in any one specific thing. Obviously, focused a lot on Japanese cars when we were writing the book.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of a big acquisition. we joke about the fact the book was expensive because we self-published and we wanted it done right. But the most expensive aspect of the book is between me and my co-author, Mark Brinker. Uh, we discovered these cars and all of a sudden had an urge to buy them. So we acquired, between the two of us during the process of writing the book, we bought 18 cars that
Oh, wow.
that we effectively knew nothing about before we started writing the book. So a lot of people kind of try to pigeonhole you into Japanese cars. I do have a lot of Japanese cars, both JDM and North American market. Actually, I just bought recently a Camry, a '95 Camry out of Canada. It was a Canadian market, built in Kentucky, but for the Canadian market. Kind of fun, just a gold Camry, right? A typical old man's Camry.
The perfect Camry.
Yeah.
Right, it is. It probably is. Not the best Camry, but I think the most important generation. It's the one that made the reputation in North America. So yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
have a lot of Japanese cars, but we have Italian, Greek. I've owned a bunch of 356s. We still have some Porsches. So yeah, I can't say that I have a real focus other than stuff that I like, stuff that I find interesting.
So sorry, just Camry. Was it the coupe? Because those were so crazy looking
So
back in the day.
no, it was a six-cylinder LE Sport, and the Sport
Ooh.
model was Canada only. But no, it's a sedan with an automatic, but it has the V6. And like 2 weeks before that, I found the identical model in a station wagon, not too far from me. So I bought that too. So the coupe is what I need to make the trifecta. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Got the
Yeah,
whole body style collection.
Are both of them golds? I know you said the sedan.
But yeah. No, it's got to be gold.
Yeah.
Can't consider any other color.
Yeah, that's the only color.
Right.
For that generation, for sure. Before that, the square ones were silver, and those ones, when they got bubbly, were gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the one after, actually, the slightly more angular one, I feel like gold was the right color for it too.
Yeah. The Gen 4 cars are terrific. Those things. I just found out through driving these cars that the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 cars are like the car of choice for demolition derby people, just because they are so indestructible.
Yeah, it feels like the Camry just borrowed from Lexus's over-engineering back then of trying to make the brand a thing, and then it just trickled down to Camry. You still see them on the road, and they're just puttering along. Like I think they're going in people's wills at this point.
Yeah, they're what really got me to buy the one in Canada was it's identical, at least in color and configuration, except for the motor of the car that my youngest daughter had in law school. When I got it for her when she started law school, it was grandma's car. It had 40,000 miles on it, 4-cylinder automatic. And my daughter's really into cars. I got it for her and she cried because she didn't want that car at all. And then when she was in her last year of law school, right before she graduated, the car was totaled. The plow truck just pushed the trunk into the back seat. And she cried again because she had fallen in love with the car. So we got the car because of it. They're just spectacular cars to drive. And the Sport model out of Canada you can feel the difference. The steering is better. It's got bolstered seats, the tuned suspension a little more than like the U.S. spec car.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. This would you say, being a car enthusiast and being more focused on the oddballs, do you think it actually kind of works the opposite way too, where you get this appreciation for the everyday vehicle, right? Like a Camry in the 90s, there's nothing more mainstream than that, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I drive that thing thinking, I can't believe I love this thing as much as I do, because I have, some expensive cars. I have some high performance cars. I have coach built cars. And, I just get in one of the Camrys and say, wow, this is a really, really well built car, really well engineered car. Some of the one-offs and the low production cars, super, super cool, beautiful, whatever. But the whole package, a perfect example is I lusted after an Alfa Romeo Montreal for years. To me, it's Gandini's second greatest design, maybe the most beautiful car I've ever seen. And it was like the perfect transition from the flowing cars to the wedge-shaped cars. You can kind of see both in there. And I finally bought one about 10 years ago. And the perfect example, it was in Greece. Second owner, owned it forever. He showed it, he rallied it. So it's a perfect operational car. It's beautiful. Got it here. I was so excited about it. Actually got here and it was better than represented. Thrilled with the deal I got on the car. And, I never really drove it much. It just didn't feel good driving. The package just didn't work for me. Never had a problem with it. Every aspect was good, but the whole package just didn't make me happy driving. I kept it for 7 or 8 years just because it was so beautiful. It was beautiful garage art. But then I just got to the point and said, it's just silly because it was real frustrating. I'd look at it and I'd want to drive it, and I know I'd be disappointed every time I drove it. Where the Camry, and maybe it's a matter of expectations. The Camry, or the Gold Camry, you don't have a lot of expectations. And when it's a good package and a fun package to drive, it makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I lost you guys for a bit there, so if you're trying to talk to me, I was completely out of silence. But I heard all the stuff about the Montreal now. So
I don't think you missed anything. I think you got the important thing there.
Yeah,
and to add to what you're saying, Myron, I think we've said this before, Mike and I. It's like people ask us all the time when we get into the regular cars, like, oh, how do you get excited about this? And it's like, I think fitness for purpose is kind of this overarching idea for every car, right? The rarities and the everyday ones. It's like, how well does it do the job it's supposed to do?
Right. Now, exactly. I actually got the Harrier Zagato. I got it out yesterday. I hadn't driven it since October because I needed to make I volunteer at a feeding ministry we have at our church, and I needed to do a big pickup at the food bank. What was the biggest cargo vehicle I had? and I loaded up the passenger seat and pulled down the back seat and filled everything up to the top. But the purpose was great, and I was able to do something good, haul a lot of crap, and do it in a little bit of style. And it fit its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny you mentioned about the Montreal and the driving experience, because we've talked about that before too, how so many cars people like admire, but a lot of old cars drove terribly when you actually get behind the wheel. Like a neighbor of mine had an MGB GT, and it was cool. It was fun to be in, but you didn't want to hustle it in a corner. My uncle had a Monte Carlo, a 71 with a 350. Made great noises, was massive, but man, you needed about a football field to try to stop that thing. And then we take a corner, it would just bend over like sideways. And yeah, it was, and then some old cars do impress you. Like I drove an FDR X7, and that's everything it was said to be. I love that car.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. I mean, just the car. But at the other end of the spectrum, the car famously considered by a lot of people in Europe as the worst European car, worst Italian car of all time, is an Alfa Romeo Arno. Well, I found a low mileage, perfect, like 9,000 kilometer car in Athens, and I imported that just because I could, and it was cheap. And Jeremy Clarkson famously said, the worst car ever made. It's a Nissan body, a Nissan Econobox body with an Alpha-Sud engine and running gear. I love driving that little car, and I've driven Nissans of that same generation. Now, the Nissan's more robustly built, but this thing, as an Econobox, is an entry-level car, shouldn't be that much fun to drive as it is. It really is. There are a lot of reasons why that car justifiably failed, in a sales end, but as the people looking for those cars are not looking for a fun driving experience. They're looking for dependability and reliability. But from my perspective, I love having this car because people expect it to be a Nissan. It's high revving and fun and makes good noises and stuff. Just a plain Jane white Japanese body.
Mm-hmm. Feels like the odd mix, Italian powertrain, Japanese styling.
Yeah. Right.
And it's funny how we're talking, since we're on mainstream cars. We'll get to some other stuff in a sec, but I was in Korea not too long ago, and I think everyone on the trip, we fell in love with the Hyundai Staria van. That thing is just crazy looking, and it's so nice and comfortable. And I'm like, how long until I can bring one of these over? Because it was just such a cool van. So there's a potential cargo vehicle for you down the road.
There you go. Yeah. I heard you talking about that. Like really, I mean, they're big too, right? There's plenty of room.
It's like a limo van. It's with a space age front. So, all right, we got to start talking about specific cars, and I will not ask you the question that everyone would ask you: what's your favorite car? Because no one can ever answer that.
There is no answer to that. There really is.
So I'll let Kyle ask one in a sec, but I'm gonna ask a more specific favorite. What's your favorite rotary car you own?
Without a doubt, my Cosmo, my Cosmo Sport.
I was gonna ask if you had
Uh,
one of those. I love that car.
yeah, I bought it. I bought it in Greece actually about 13, 14 years ago, and it was my only car there for a couple of years. But at the
Oh
time, I
wow.
was still working, and I was only there, a couple of weeks, 2, 3 weeks a year. So ended up bringing it here, and it's not the prettiest Cosmo. It's been repainted the wrong color. It's got slot mags on it, but it's got the original engine. It was rebuilt in Japan before it came over, and it is one of my top three most fun cars to drive of all time. And now some of the paintwork's starting to go away and stuff like that. So at some point it's going to need some cosmetic redo, but yeah, by far. And it's not my rarest rotary car. I have a car called the Mazda Luce R130, which is the only front-wheel drive rotary engine car Mazda ever built. Stewart coupe,
Wow.
more rare than the Cosmo. Uh, Bertone body by Giugiaro. So on paper, it should be my favorite car, but it's not. Cosmo is just a
And the Cosmo is also probably top three in rear overhang by proportion. A
yeah.
lot of car off the back. Sorry, Kyle, I just have to ask since we're on Cosmo, have you ever had a Unis Cosmo? Because I love that car and I want one so bad.
So the answer is yes and no. Um, I bought two cars. When I started importing cars from Japan, I was using a dealer out of the Toronto area who will not be named. And I bought 5, 6 cars from him. And then I ordered. I found a Unos Cosmo, a 20B. Got to have the triple row.
Yeah,
Got to have a Unos
exactly.
Cosmo.
Got
Gotta
it.
have
The triple row.
yeah.
That and Nissan Sylvia, first generation CSP 311 Sylvia in Japan.
Oh.
And we found that, supposedly sourced them. I paid him for them, and for 10 months, the cars never arrived. Turns out they never got ordered. Turns out he used the money for growing his business. Nice guy, but just kind of got in over his head. And money wasn't there. The cars weren't here. Finally decided to try to get my money back. I finally had to call. You guys are from Toronto. I had to call Amvik and kind of
Oh,
lay a hypothetical situation out there.
yeah.
Once I dropped the Amvik name, then the money showed up a couple months later. But yeah, I still want a 20B Unos cut. So I've technically I paid for one, but I never got.
Hmm.
There was a Mazda dealer here in Scarborough that had a 13B Cosmo in their showroom, and I get to sit in it. And oh man, just made me want it more. So Kyle, let you go now.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've sat in the one at Mazda USA's headquarters. I've not driven.
it's just a very stately. It has a very simple, elegant look to it. Yeah, I get it. It's
And
such an appealing
navigation.
car.
Yeah. First car with navigation.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and very very early digital dash car. So there are a lot of great things.
My specific question, for any listeners or viewers who might not be aware of the other Stelvio, the first Stelvio vehicle, it wasn't an Alpha. What drew you to that? Because it's such a fascinating vehicle to me.
It was the book. that was one of my big book purchases. And we looked at that car. Mark and I looked at that car, pictures of that car. How do we not know about that? It's got handmade Italian coach built body, aluminum body, very limited production, super high cost when they were. Timing was really bad, right? It was introduced right as the Japanese bubble economy was crashing,
Mhm.
and it was the halo car for Japan's Nissan's new high performance division, Autet, which is the AMG equivalent at Mercedes. And they had the guy who was in charge of the GTR program to head up Autet, right? So this thing had all the stuff going for it, and 320 horsepower reliable car with a hand built, Zagato body, super super cool. So and they're only 88 made, so tough to find. Well, one showed up at an auction in Monterey. We happened to be there in Monterey. Just by dumb luck, 3 or 4 days before, I literally ran into the seller, not knowing who he was. We just started a casual conversation, and we've since been good friends. He's an importer out of New Jersey, and he's imported a few other cars. But that car just blew me away. It's got very polarizing looks.
A little bit.
A lot of polarizing engineering aspects. It's got the NACA duct wheels, solid NACA duct wheels. And, if you ever want to have fun with some engineers, ask them if the NACA ducts on the wheels are in the right direction. You'll come back 2 hours later, they'll still be arguing. But, a lot of that stuff was just done for design, right? It just had really no function. Those cars aren't brake. It's not brake cooling or anything like that. So that's kind of what drew me to it. It was really special, and the value, and that's a super fun car to drive. Interesting thing about that was I bought it in Monterey at the auction. We went back to Greece after the auction, and I get a call from my daughters after the car was delivered here to my garage. Dad, we want to take it up to Detroit for Radwood. And so my kids put 1,000 miles on it before I ever saw it. They won Best in Show at Radwood at the first debate. And really never been so. I've been super proud of my girls because they won Best in Show. Last year, my younger daughter and her husband took that same car down to Amelia Island, drove it in the pouring rain in the middle of March down to Amelia Island, did spray and wash before the Concours, won a class award at Amelia Island, and drove it back. Put a couple thousand miles on it.
It's those fender flares. That's what's winning it all the awards.
Yeah, right.
The integrated mirrors are just another level.
It's the crazy wing mirrors. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like a lot of people probably still don't know what Autech is, and most of us wouldn't at all, except for Gran Turismo that introduced us to it because they had all the various tuned Nissans. But I actually looked into the company once just for fun, going down a rabbit hole, and I can't believe they actually made a X-Trail, the first gen X-Trail that we got in Canada, that square body. They tuned one of those. I don't know what they did to it, but I've heard about it. Yeah, the Autech X. I can't remember what it was called now, but yeah, I assume it's probably a body kit. I can't imagine they did any performance to it, but
Autech was all over the place, right? Some of those were just body kits, some were just badges, but there were other ones that were pretty highly tuned, like the GTR. Not the Skyline GTR, the GTIR. Sorry. The ultimate version, obviously, the Nismo, there were 21 made, but the Autech was right behind it, and it would match every bit of the Nismo as far as performance. So, it was kind of all over the place. I think Autech also did like handicap, work on cars. So it became a catch-all for Nissan.
So before we get go, there's some questions we always ask people. We kind of already answered one. Is there a one car out there that has eluded you this whole time? I know you want the Cosmo, but is there one that really just think of all time? Like, I can't wait till finally get my hands on one of these.
Not all time. My current obsession, and it's something I've been working on for about a year, is a Mitsuoka Orochi.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the ultimate one when we get the Evangelion one, right? The one that was sold through 7-Eleven with like all the crazy paint and stuff. But I'd be happy with just a regular Orochi. The problem we have here in the States is the 25-year rule. Been working on getting show and display done for that. But that's kind of the one I'd love to have.
Why don't you buy it and I'll look after it for you for 10 years, and then you can have it when it's.
It's what, 20 years old now? It's getting closer.
Well, from the time it was announced, the time it was actually introduced was several years. The concept car was on a NSX chassis. The actual car was their own design, a bespoke chassis with basically a Camry engine and an automatic. So, I would guess, I think 2006. So yeah, at least 15.
Oh, we're getting there. You don't have much longer to wait.
We'll send it over to you. You drive it over to me. I can have my fun with it, but you can drive it back.
Yeah, just rent the garage space that is closest to the Detroit border, and just
we'll keep Ontario plates on it, and it'll be good for 5 years.
My older daughter lives in Detroit, so it's close.
There you go. And obviously she doesn't have an issue with driving your cars long distances either. So.
No, not at all.
All right, Kyle, you want to ask the other question we always ask?
I mean, I've gone blank thinking about all these odd cars, and I was going to ask that one that you just did. So I think you should just ask the second
All
one.
right. So we always ask the one you never got, and then we also got to ask the one that got away. What one car have you sold through your whole collection that you always go back and think, I should have never done that?
Yeah, that's an easy one. The current warehouse that I have for my cars, uh, I bought just as my oldest daughter was starting university, and our younger daughter was a year behind. So I needed space. I had about a 6,000 square foot building. I found this one, and it was inadequate. So I found this one 16,000 square feet, and it was just perfect. Good location, everything was there. But timing was kind of tough because like first daughter starting university, second one not far behind, and I kept the thing that my dad said in the back of my head, saying, never buy a car you can't pay cash for. Well, I didn't buy this warehouse for a business purpose, right? This is really an extension of my car, automotive. So I had to justify that. So rather than take a loan for the building, which was I should have, right? Because it's 2006, 2007, when money was cheap and available, right before the markets crashed. People were throwing you money for no reason. I could have easily gotten a loan. I decided, now I got to sell a car to pay cash for the building. So I sold a car that I loved driving and one that I was very lucky to acquire. A 1956 Porsche Carrera Speedster, 4K, the 4K Speedster, one of 140 made, kind of the iconic Speedster. And I sold that so that I could pay cash. Now, long story short, I regret selling it because I loved it so much. But then from the more practical end, I think I sold it for maybe $250,000, $300,000, something like that. And today the car is worth then $1.5 million to $2 million. The building I bought with it, because of being Akron, Ohio, might be worth $500,000.
Not appreciate the same way.
Yeah, so it was a bad decision from a fun perspective and also bad economic.
You have a very similar story to, I guess, we had on Paul Cullen from the UK, who had a 22B as a second owner sort of right after they came out, and he sold it, and now those cars are approaching the 7-digit mark, and you're never going to get those.
Yeah. My co-author bought a 22. Same thing. He bought a 22B in the UK right before they took off. I think he paid 100,000 pounds for it or something. And even I thought, that's a lot of money for a Subaru.
Yeah. But now, you could get hundreds of thousands of pounds. I mean, my regrets far less expensive or rare. Mine's the SVX. I wish I never sold mine. And I knew the guy I sold it to, but I've lost contact because I wanted to buy it back one day.
I mean, it's getting pretty rare at this point.
Yeah, they're starting to go up. They used to be dirt cheap, and now, I mean, they're not expensive, but now it's like it doesn't justify it.
They're super cool cars. I love the Giugiaro design of those. People talk about the impracticality of the windows. I'm thinking, women wear high heels. Let's not talk about practicality when it comes to style. But yeah, you're right. The price has gone up justifiably, but so you buy like the best one in the world for $15,000.
I know.
Still a screaming bargain.
I plan to. I want to get a Japanese one with the S4 with the better all-wheel drive system. So they come up here quite often because there's weird people like me that like them. So one day I'll get back into it.
Cool.
Well, we thank you for your time. If Kyle has no other questions, or do you have?
No, I mean, I know we could just talk to Myron for a long time, but
you wouldn't have an audience left if you did. So
no, we'll save it for another time.
We'd have the right audience. We'd have the ones that stuck out because they like these cars as much as we do. But we thank you. And I've been saying ever since we've been talking online for years, I need to come down and see your place at some point. It's not that far. It's a
5-hour drive. It's an easy, nice ride.
I've been down there a couple times because we have really good family friends there. So if I ever get back down there, I will definitely reach out to you, because I would just stand there staring at the warehouse probably for hours and not moving, just taking it all in.
Love to have you. We have an apartment in the garage for out of town guests, so you can say you slept in a garage.
Nice. All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a
All right.
great weekend, and hopefully the weather improves for all of us and we can get out and really enjoy these cars soon.
Yeah, pleasure visiting with you, and thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Myron.
Joining us once again is Colum to talk F1, and a little less controversy this week, but still lots of news and lots of races.
There's always controversy. There's always something going on. You never know what's going to come up. So maybe my first take of the week. This is interesting. So this is actually in reference to the Imola race, and it was just interesting how right before there's been so much talk about. Well, there wasn't a lot of talk about this when it first happened. There was sort of some fallout afterwards. So basically, right before the race, the FIA came out with a new sort of technical directive, is what it's called, that basically dealt with tire cooling and the skid planks and all that stuff. And so, as you dig into this, what has become interesting is that a lot of the way these technical directives work is it's actually just answers provided by the FIA from teams. So one way this kind of works is that Red Bull asked a lot of questions, a lot about this like tire cooling, the water cooling, and that was all cleared as like McLaren's not doing anything illegal there. That was nonsense, right? But the way that they're asked is basically you ask all these questions of like, hey, could we do this? Hey, could we do that? And the FIA response says basically no. And if another team is actually doing the stuff that you're asking about, they basically have to then stop, even though they've never actually been specifically called out. It's now been like called out. So it's a way of kind of like, you could just write 28 different, questions. And then basically if the FIA comes back and says, yeah, you can't do any of those, then if in fact, your team was doing one of them, you have to stop. So the gist of it all is that everything else, all these sort of like tire cooling stuff, it seemed like it was not there. One thing that is sort of I think it was a Racer magazine. They had this very interesting article all about what they called thermoelectric cooling, because it can't be like liquid. You can't use liquids on it. But basically, they're talking about this. It's called it's either a Peltier or a Peltier device, and it's basically a solid state thermoelectric module that basically you can heat up or cool down something. And because it's not a liquid, it doesn't apply to any of those liquid rules that they have. It is a solid. And so basically it could sort of accept a lot of heat when heat's coming in and then deplete it at a different time. And so you could basically use it to heat and cool at different times. Really, the question is, this is a possibility. Is anybody using this? We have no idea. Is it even possible to fit these devices into, the brake work, et cetera? I've rambled for a while, but basically all this kind of goes to say that the interesting thing I think came out of that race is that I felt like that McLaren didn't have the obvious performance advantage anymore. Like I know Max got like that great dive bomb in the first corner, and that was whatever. But it felt like they were more on par, and so I'm like, was there something there? Did McLaren tone their car back already? I don't know. I'm like an eternal conspiracy theorist. So
I don't know. I think they still came second and third, and handedly, like they weren't being harassed. I think Max just had one of those Max races where he and the car were just well suited for the conditions. And I mean, it was still only like 5-6 seconds. It wasn't like he ran away and hid, but you're right. They weren't way ahead of him, but this isn't the first time he's done that even this year. So there's still the car to beat, but yeah, maybe some things have changed, or maybe some of the questions where they said yes or no, Red Bull's like, oh, well, we can't do this now.
Yeah. So yeah, and apparently most of them were all no's. Basically, everything is like, no, you can't do this. So it's interesting to see, because again, the whole idea was supposed to be that the Flexi wing or the mini DRS was all going to be changed in Spain, which is now not Monaco this weekend, but the next one, and that we would see changes in performance potentially then. But it looked like there was a change, but you could be right that it could be Verstappen just was at one with the car and had one of those races, and that was it. And he did luck out with the safety cars. I think he would have kind of been there anyway, but the safety cars were, sometimes they screw you, and he definitely lucked out with the safety cars. I think both of them. So he did really well with that.
We'll have to wait and see the Spain race to find out.
We will indeed. Yeah. So you threw the next photo up here for those listening. This is a little shot of Mick Doohan's Instagram account making fun of Colapinto crashing. And the reality is, if you've seen this anywhere on your Instagram feed, it's not real. It's fake. It was created by a parody Formula One account, but everybody got talking, and there was a big controversy during the week. And I think, like, forget the sort of controversy, et cetera. I think it still speaks to the fact that, I mean, Colapinto, we were saying, he actually, when we were remembering from last year, he actually wasn't outrageously good. He had some crashes, and here he is, first race out in Alpine, and another crash, and it's like, oh no, man. Like,
No, not first race out, first session of qualifying, right at the start. He did. You don't need this fake Nick Doohan account. I mean, everybody that was watching, as soon as he crashed, we're like, ooh, that's not a good way to start.
It is not. It is
and then
not.
you start at the back and don't do much in the race. So.
No. I can't actually remember how Gasly did. I think he did mediocre. I don't think he was in the points, though. So
he wasn't in a cobbled together backup car either. So.
No, good point. But it wasn't like Alpine has sort of had like Gasly's been decent this year, I think, like in a meh car, but it seems like they've kind of been coming on. But Gasly, it didn't seem like even if he had a decent car, he was going to do much that race. Still, not a good luck. So better luck.
Car's not as atrocious as last year.
No, that's true. That's true. So better luck for Colapinto this time. And maybe I figure we could. I know you said this podcast is running very long this week, so if we keep it short, it will be over as people listen to this, as we always say. But Monaco is coming up, and I guess it all pretty much depends on qualifying. Although it's the mandatory 2-stop tire change this time around to try and make things more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, qualifying I think will still be the most important, but you're right. There will be some undercut. Safety cars could play a huge role into this, but
especially with 6 rookies or whatever the hell we have, right? Like, there are going to be crashes for sure.
Well, 6 rookies, but I mean, it's not like there's any walls close to the track to jut out or anything. I mean, there's lots of runoff space. Track limits, you can abuse them here, no problem. So, okay, I will give you my first prediction, and then I'll give you a wild card after.
Okay.
So I'm a McLaren guy. I love the McLaren team, but because qualifying is so important, and he seems to put together ridiculous laps at times, I think Max will get this one too, and I think he'll start really pushing to. We'll have a 3-way battle for the championship at the end of this race. I think, like a really close one.
I think I'm going to mirror that. Like the only thing I think is, if it's not, it's Piastri. I think those are the options for pole. So, but I think Max is, Although it wasn't last year, year before, he pulled out that like crazy lap where he just pipped Alonso at the last corner or whatever. But he touched the wall hard in that one, and so Verstappen could have a wall scenario too. So So what's your? Sorry,
I was gonna say it's one of the few courses where you have to set up what you're gonna do as soon as you cross the finish line. Like, it's not like you just hit it wide open and coast. It's like you need to be ready to turn again right away. So,
yeah.
I wonder how that affects people, but I just see Verstappen just nailing one, or he'll dive bomb someone in the first corner and put them in the wall. So my outside prediction, just because the team's been coming on and they just seem to be getting better and better, and like you said, cautions, crashes, if they somehow get in the front, I have not decided if it's going to be Albon or Sainz, but I see Williams could just position themselves in the right spot and just not be able to get past.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say Albon for getting a good pull. He seems like he could do it. Whether or not you can hold on to it, I think it's difficult. Well, everything's falling there, Mike.
I just unplugged my computer and other stuff started falling.
Oh no! But so I think that, or I'll go back to not to win the race again, but just for qualifying, give Alonso a shot. That would be my other. That's my wild card. If you already stole Albon, I'll take Alonso.
If it rains, I'm right on board with you, because it's Monaco. It's probably going to rain at least 6 times this weekend. I mean,
yes.
I don't know if they ever had a full dry weekend before. I don't think Albon or Sainz will get pole, but I think due to pits, I think they'll both qualify top 10, and they'll just position themselves where they could get a lucky safety car or undercut properly, or they could roll the dice more on a tire and get the right choice. Who knows?
Yeah. If you think back to that, remember the year Ricardo, like, despite having his like electric power gone, he was only running on like the gas engine, and so he was down like 150 horsepower, and he still managed to hold off. It was like Vettel or something for like the last like 8 laps or something. I mean, if you could be down 150 horsepower and still not get past, it's a tough place to pass. So it should be, but maybe one of these crazy rookies will just, make it exciting for us.
And even with our wild card more, especially if Verstappen and some of the McLarens get a little too feisty and take each other out, then that opens the door too.
Yep, one of those will happen this year. We'll get a race where like the top 2 or 3 are wiped out right away, and then we'll get Hamilton winning or something, right? So
yeah, Hamilton's going to win Monza for his home crowd.
There you go,
or for the company's home crowd.
You've called it now.
Yeah, I'm just in the conspiracy. All right, well, those are predictions, and people listening to this will be laughing at how wrong we were, or be like, "Wow, they're smart." We won't know. But thank you for joining us, Colum. Next week, we will talk fallout from this race and start setting up Spain and any other rumors.
Sounds great. Talk soon.
See ya. Okay, so we'll quickly wrap things up on the Auto Guide show brought to you by eBay Motors, so we don't take up too much more of your time. So as Kyle and I both said, we kind of already covered it. I was in Wisconsin driving a bunch of cars, and Kyle was in Texas learning about a bunch of cars. Next week, you drove one too, right?
I drove a few, but yeah, there is one that we'll talk about next week, which is the refreshed 2026 BZ, which, as far as I know, is the only car that has, in a mid-cycle refresh, lost 50% of its name and gained 50% power.
Yeah, that's probably true. Not to be confused with the BZ Woodland or the old BZ4X.
Or the CHR.
So next week, we are comparing two pickups and off-roaders. So we will have the Nissan Frontier Pro 4X. That's their most off-roady version of that you can possibly get. And although Toyota has multiple, and probably the TRD's a better lineup, we're going all in. Tacoma, Trail Hunter, TRD Pro, is that how you say it?
Tacoma Trail Hunter, which I actually drove up in Texas. I drove to the racetrack and back, not to drive on the racetrack, but yeah. So yeah, like it'll be very different. They fight in, well, one of them has a much more expansive price tag.
And probably expansive capability, or maybe not. That's what we hope to find out.
Yeah.
We won't be doing any rock crawling, but we hope to at least get in some dirt and obviously a lot of road driving, because these are not off-road toys. These are vehicles that people will take off-road but also need daily. So you need to be able to park it and drive it. So anyway, that wraps up this episode. We will be back next week to talk about those and the car Kyle talked about and some other comparisons we've done and the Forester I talked about.
Tons of stuff.
Yeah, so until then, see ya.
So long, everybody.
Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay, because whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything: brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need, and it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need, at the prices you'll love, guaranteed fit every time. eBay, things people love.